there's a lot of drones flying overhead in the United States? Raise your hand if you don't think there are a lot of them. Well, you all are right, the last group here. And there's a reason for that, and that's because the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, is in charge of the safety of our airspace, and they take that mandate seriously. And so they have not wanted to give out a lot of permits for drones because they look around the world and they see drones are crashing everywhere. And they also understand that the technology is not developed so that without a person in the cockpit, you can't be sure that they are actually seeing carefully what's going on all around them. And because of that, they have been reluctant to give out large numbers of permits for drones. Unfortunately, they've also been reluctant to tell us, the American people, how many permits they've given out, to whom, and for what reasons. And it was only thanks to the Electronic Frontier Foundation that has sued the FAA that we're starting to get that information out. So we know now that there are some government agencies like the FBI, Homeland Security, the Border Patrol. Border Patrol is using them on the southern and the northern borders. There are companies that are producing drones and have permits to test them. There are universities that are collaborating with the military and have permits. And then the important thing to focus on, as Bob said, is the police departments. And so far, there's maybe, as far as we know, only a dozen police departments that are using drones. They have received grants from Homeland Security to buy the drones and to experiment with them. But the drone manufacturers are very upset at the FAA and said, you've got to open up the airspace, that we need more sales now that they're closing down our sales in Afghanistan and Iraq. They are looking at the 20,000 police stations in the United States and saying every police station in this country should have their own drones. And so they have their own congressional caucus. They forced through legislation signed by Obama on Valentine's Day, a great present for the drone industry, that said by 2015 at the latest, you have to open up the entire airspace for drones, commercial and non-commercial drones, and before that for law enforcement agencies. So we're already seeing, they said any small drones under 25 pounds you don't even need a permit for, and they are speeding up the licensing process for drones. So I think we should be very concerned about drones coming to our communities at home. What would they be used for? Well, surveillance. Who would they be surveilling? Us. As well as, of course, Muslim community, Black community, environmental activists, peace activists. They would be used for crowd control. Already the police department in Houston is bragging about how they have tasers and how they can use rubber bullets and how they can use stun grenades from these drones. So we are teaming up with folks like Rand Paul, people in the Cato Institute that are libertarians, that are horrified by the idea of drones coming home and spying on us here. People like Charles Krauthammer, who said that the first American who shoots down a drone that's hovering over their house will be a folk hero. And the legislation that Bob referred to is legislation that Rand Paul introduced that said that drones cannot be used to spy on us here at home, only in exceptional cases, and in those cases they have to have a warrant to do